Welcome back to this week's edition of the Steele Report with the three Republican candidates vying for the GOP nomination in Iowa's 1st Congressional District. Rod Blum on your left there, Gail Bolivar in the middle, and Steve Racci next to me. The president recently announced major cuts to U.S. military. So do you supporting, Gail, you talked about this a little bit earlier, but do you support cutting U.S. military funding, or is that sending the wrong message to leaders like Vladimir Putin, who's been kind of sticking it to the United States publicly over the last few weeks with what he's been doing in Crimea and Ukraine? So, Steve, let's start with you on that one. How do you feel about this military situation? It is awfully expensive to maintain a vital and vibrant force.
It most definitely is. You know, three people have come on board my campaign. Lieutenant General Tom McInerney, Major General Paul Vallely, and Brigadier General Jimmy Cash. All three are former, or actually two of them are still Fox News military contributors, and the third has retired from that. But I've sat and talked with them extensively about this, and they agree 100% that there is a lot of waste in the military. The cuts right now are sending the wrong message, but I think we can do this from internally and with more oversight as to what really needs to be done and how we can fix this thing. They've given me several examples. You know, if we're going to manufacture a brand new aircraft, for example, here we've got all the plans, all the plans and all the details and all the contracts for manufacturing that aircraft. And as soon as that aircraft gets delivered to the American public, all of a sudden the price is doubled or tripled or quadrupled or something like that. Now, how does that happen when we have signed contracts for everything? These wasteful spending habits of the military, of the American government as it is right now, have to stop. And the people have had it. I think the military has had it. In fact, Derek Thorson, he's one of my campaign directors. He's a captain with the 101st Airborne Division, and he'll tell you firsthand that everything the generals are saying are true. We can do so much more with so much less without sending the signal to our enemies that we are weak, and that's what we're doing right now.
I'd like to add just a couple of things, and that is, I think our military gets handcuffed by politicians, frankly. There are proposals out now that we would close some military installations, and they're not allowed to close those installations because of the political ramifications of jobs in those areas. So step one, let's take politics out of the military. Two, I would disagree with Steve a little bit in that the F-35, which is our newest jet fighter, we are pushing the technological edge when we develop some of these airplanes. So there is not a known factor as to how to come up with some solutions and make this thing as stealthy and fast and as defensive as it can be. So I understand, quote, cost overruns a little bit. Where I would suggest that we can make some changes is that we've had agreements across the board with other nations, and it's time to engage those other nations in the boots on the ground. Central African Republic, good example. The French put 1,000 troops in, probably saved the country, and we did not participate. We don't need to participate. That's why we need to withhold some of our major troop commitments that we have overseas, stay out of the military's plan and allow them to reduce their force. With the Crimea situation, I think that does demonstrate that the military has to be powerful. It has to be in place so that the other side doesn't misinterpret what we're doing with our military today.
Rod, Ed?
Yes, I'd just like to add to what these two gentlemen said. And whenever I hear the word military, I immediately think of Bruce Braley, our current congressman in this district. And I obviously don't agree with Congressman Braley on most things, particularly his view of Iowa farmers. But one legacy that I would like to continue of Congressman Braley's is his treatment of our military veterans. He's been an advocate, tireless advocate for our military veterans, and I applaud him for that effort and respect him for that effort. And I would continue that tradition if I'm sent to Washington, D.C. My father served in World War II in the United States Navy. My brother did 3 tours of duty in Vietnam. I come from a military family, and I think they're national treasures. And anyone who has served in the military has potentially offered their life for this country and for our freedom. So I think we need to be mindful of that. Really, when we talk about the military budget, Ron, if we look at the overall picture, we have got a spending addiction in this country. Certainly every agency, including the military, could be a bit more efficient, because I haven't heard anyone say that the government is a model of efficiency. And we're running up $500 billion to $750 billion deficits every year. Our national debt is now approaching $18 trillion. At some point here, we're going to be spending more on our interest on our national debt than we are in the entire defense budget. So if you look at what is the biggest threat to us and to this country, I don't think it's another country and their military. I think it's our increase in our national debt, and that is holding our economy back. That being said, it's a dangerous world, and we see that Russia's incursion into Crimea is yet another example of that. And we need to have the most powerful military in the world and stand for freedom and democracy and liberty around the world.
Okay, what we're going to do now, we're running out of time on our regular program here. We're going to continue this online right now on KWWL.com. So I thank Rod Blum, Gail Bolivar, and Steve Rachi for appearing on our main channel right now, and we're going to continue this conversation right now in the next moment or so on KWWL.com. We'll see you all here next week, and as always, online.